Hello everybody, welcome to Oschersleben, day 2 here, and more beautiful sunshine, clear skies, and temperatures at the moment of around about 16 degrees as we get set for the second qualifying session of the weekend for the Prototype Cup Germany. My name's Chris Hartley. I'll talk you through what's going to be an action-packed 15 minutes of qualifying. This to set the grid for the second 1-hour race of the day. After yesterday, we had a very good competitive race with quite a bit of overtaking, some really slick work in the pits with the driver changes, and a second victory of the season for Oscar Tunyo, the Colombian driver, and Julian Apotolotti, driver from Switzerland. They've had 2 wins now. They've had 3 podiums out of 3, and that victory yesterday was enough to push the pair who drive for the Van Ommen racing team into the championship lead by just a single point over the pairing of Marcus Pommer and Gary Hauser, who finished second yesterday. It was their 3rd podium out of 3 so far this year as well, but they could only muster a 2nd place finish. The race sadly ended behind the safety car after we had an off for the Muka Motorsport Duquesne of Nicky Gola and Gustavo Carrillo. It was the Brazilian Carrillo who was driving the car at the time, and there was only a few minutes left in the race, so it ended behind the safety car. Just in time before that safety car came out, literally seconds before it, there was a change for 3rd place. The 77 DKR engineering car, driven at the time by Valentino Catalano, had moved into 3rd place after a charging 2nd stint in the car to get through, and just ahead of the number 72 Karainen Motorsport car, which had been started by Lawrence Hill, and Matthias Luton was driving the car. Matthias still winning the trophy category for the older drivers, but 4th place overall yesterday. And then it was the father and son pairing of Mark and Max van der Snel who finished in 5th place yesterday for their own Moore Motorsport by Reiter team in the number 99 car, and 6th place yesterday went to another of the Van Ommen cars, the 55 car of Gabriela Jilkova and Xavier Loveras. So they were the top 6 yesterday, and qualifying now sets the grid for the 2nd race. So whichever driver qualified and started the race yesterday, it's the other way round today. That's in the case of all the 2 driver lineups, which is most of the teams in fairness, but there are a couple of single driver entries as well who will be out in action again. Danny Sufi yesterday, we'll see what happens today. Yesterday drove alone, was scheduled to start with Nico Silva in the number 2 Conrad Motorsport car, but yesterday Danny definitely looked like a sole driver. And the other one was Martin Anderson, who was involved in the battle for 2nd place yesterday, and were very quick in the 2nd half of the race, but unfortunately got a lap down at the time, so didn't finish too high up the order. And the other sole driver yesterday was the number 35 BHK Motorsport Ligier, driven by Elia Sperandio, which started the race well, was up there pushing inside the top 5, top 6 positions, but unfortunately was one of the drivers that picked up a penalty during the pit stops and dropped down the order as a result of that. So good crowd gathered here already. There is the number 6 Van Ommen car of Oscar Tunyo and Julian Apotelos. It should be Julian who starts the qualifying, or does the qualifying and starts the race today, because it was Oscar yesterday. And that's the new championship leading car, with qualifying 2 starting in just over a minute's time. So the cars, all LMP3 cars, they all run on Michelin tyres. You get a maximum of 3 sets of slicks to use per weekend during the official sessions, that's to say the 2 qualifyings and the 2 races. But they did get 1 extra set for this first event of the season. So 4 sets for 4 sets for Hockenheim. It's 3 sets for this 2nd event and every set thereafter. And the cars, all say LMP3 cars. This is the 8th season now of LMP3 racing, so all sports prototype cars. They've got big, roaring, rumbling V8 engines, Nissan V8 engines, and the cars produce around 455 brake horsepower. So we've got 30 seconds to go, and yesterday qualifying was from start to finish absolutely flat out, because it's a 15-minute session, but of course by the time you leave the pits, you go out and do a lap and then get back up to speed. It means you've only really got about 10 or 11 minutes to try and get a lap time in, so it was pretty frenetic. I think we had something like 5 or 6 different drivers that were on provisional pole position at one point or another yesterday, and we'll see what the track is like as well, because it's been steady overnight. No no overnight rain or anything like that, but sometimes as the session gets underway, it can be a little bit green and a little bit fresh, the track in the morning. So what setup you used yesterday, what tyres you used yesterday, not necessarily the setup to have this morning, but they've got to have used the data that they've built up here and at previous events, and then try to get the right setup, because what you run is what you've got to stick with now. No time to make any changes during this 15-minute session. So I've had 3 races now, one yesterday here at Oschersleben. A few weeks ago we were at Hockenheim for the first weekend of the season. Now, Julian Apostolos was absolutely mega yesterday when he was in the car, and if the safety car hadn't come out when it did late on, I think he would have won the race by about 20 seconds, having been 15 or 16 seconds clear with a few laps to go. And he was, you know, other than I think the 77 car driven by Valentino Catalano was much quicker than everybody else out there in that part of the race. So the Swiss driver who raced in the TCR Championship in 2018, 2019, so touring car background, but then moved into GT4 racing in 2020, and has then since competed in the GT World Challenge Europe last year, and also competed in the Nürburgring 24-hour race, and the multiple DTM legend champion that is Bernd Schneider is the driver that's been associated with Julian and recommending him to come into this championship, and he's picked a good driver, that's for sure. Oh dear, we've had a spin already on cold tyres, but should be no harm done. The car will wait for a gap, get back underway, and should be no harm done. It's the Racing Experience car of Marcus Pommer and Gary Hauser. So that's the team that are second in the championship. It's Gary that's behind the wheel for this one. Ex-Formula 3 racer Marcus Pommer drove the car in the first stint and qualified yesterday, and yep, just on cold tyres, just trying to warm the car up, and just lost it. Quick spin there. So this circuit, 3.6 kilometres long, nearly 3.7 kilometres long, 14 turns. It's clockwise in direction. It's relatively flat, although having run around the circuit last night, there are a few undulations. At the back straight is a gentle climb all the way up from turns 10 to 11. There's a few downhill entries as well. Turn 3, the left-hand hairpin, is a little bit banked as well, but generally it's a fairly flat circuit. You can overtake here, but you have to work at it. There aren't absolutely tons of different positions in which you can do that. So there is the number 72 car, finishing in 4th place yesterday, the Korainen Kempi Motorsport car, of the Finnish team in the championship, which Lawrence Hur and Matthias Luton drove to 4th place in yesterday's race. So that car for this session is going to be driven by Matthias Luton, and Matthias, so is the driver that was battling, 3-way battle it had for 2nd place yesterday, but just missed out on the podium right at the end. He's the reigning trophy champion and was 3rd in the Drivers' Championship last year. He and his teammate Lawrence Hur have worked together and known each other for a decade. They can't race together as well, so there's a good relationship there. That's the view over at turn 2. Big sweeping right-hander where it's very easy to understeer. So really attack, the first corner is almost not a corner, you just attack that left-hander, throw the car into the right-hander at turn 2, and if you get it slightly wrong, you oversteer off the road. There's the MRS GT Racing number 14 car of Marko Kasic, which that car started yesterday by Jan Marszalkowski, who was really good at defending. He had a queue of cars behind him, but was holding on to 7th place for a long time. But Marko Kasic, the Canadian driver, who's the winner of the Formula Pro USA Formula 4 Western Championship a few years ago, and an open wheel racing background, but he's starting the flying lap now. So early benchmark time is the number 5 car, the Van Orman Racing car of Xavier Lovras, the Spanish driver. Lovras has done a 1:24.9, but I think we're going to get quicker. There are other lap times posted, but nobody's posted anything close to that so far. So Kasic is on a push lap. Lovras is trying to go even quicker as well, and at the moment is the fastest driver out there in the number 5 car. So I set the absolute best first sector, the absolute best second sector, and we'll see in a moment when he crosses the line in the background if he's gone even quicker. Through he goes over the line, and it is a lot quicker. 1:20.660 seconds. But times are going to come down for everybody else now. But that's the early benchmark time. Danny Sufi is definitely driving solo again today because he's back behind the wheel of the car. which is the number 2, Ginetta. Ginetta, one of the 4 chassis manufacturers involved in LMP3 racing. As we keep an eye on the progress of Kasic still, who's had personal bests in all of the sectors so far. He's currently in 6th place, but I think he's about to go up quite a bit higher than that. Let's have a look where it puts him. Over the line he goes, and it's 3rd quickest. 1 minute 22.418 seconds. So Loveras quickest, Sufi 2nd, and Kasic in 3rd place. But we've got Loveras pushing on again with an absolute best first sector time, 29.498 seconds. The first sector takes in turns 1, 2 and 3, and then middle sector takes in the triple left-hand section at turns 4, 5 and 6, the right-hander at turn 7, the chicane at turns 8 and 9, and then the back straight. And we've had another spin, and one of the advertising hoardings wiped out as well there, but again the car should be able to get back underway as we keep an eye on the progress of Loveras here, who pushes wide on the exit to the final turn. He's trying to beat his own 1 minute 20.660 seconds, and does so easily. 1 minute 19.920 seconds for Xavier Loveras. So Spanish driver going even quicker. He's 0.8 seconds ahead now, Danny Soufflé. Everybody out there has just done personal best lap times. That's the view into the left-hander, which looks fairly flat from there, doesn't it? But it's definitely banked and cambered to the inside. And this is a replay of how that happened. So that was the 14 car, avoiding a spinning car ahead, wiping out the marker board. That was Kasic, who got back on track, but that rather ruined his lap. And yeah, managed just about to avoid the spinning car. Right, so anybody else flying? Well, Loveras is flying again, but keep an eye on number 6. He's only 13th at the moment, but it's just at the absolute best middle sector, Julian Apostolos. So that car is about to fly up the order and go 2nd quickest with a 120.082. It's first proper lap then for Apostolos, who won the race yesterday with his teammate, puts him 2nd. So 5, Loveras is the quickest. 6, Apostolos is in 2nd place. It's the 12 car of Kevin Warscheid and Wolfgang Peyer behind the wheel for this session, that had the spin which caused the evacuation onto the grass for the number 14 MRS GT racing car. Right, Catalano was quick yesterday, as I said, very quick in the second half of the race, and is 3rd at the moment. Would that be the front row? It would be pole position provisionally, with a time of 1 minute 19.550 seconds, so by 0.3 of a second going ahead of Loveras. But this is Apostolos, who has done the absolute best first sector, so quickest through the first third of the lap than anybody else so far. Absolute best second sector as well. It's also been a good start for Loveras in this lap. So Loveras in this 5 cars flying. Apostolos is ahead on track, and he's coming towards the end of the lap, so this could be for a provisional pole position. That was a tidy exit right on the ragged edge for the Swiss driver. Over the line he comes. Will it be quickest? Yes, it will. 1 minute 19.193, but we've got Loveras going quicker, I think. He's 3rd at the moment in the number 5 car. Here he is. He's done the absolute best first and second sector times. As we get a spin, I'm afraid, for the 22 Conrad Motorsport car, which is buried in the gravel trap. Doesn't look like it's going any further at the moment of Hecklinde, but here comes Loveras. Will this be enough to get the pole position? He was on course for it, and he's done it. 1 minute 19.118 seconds, only just though by a whisper, by 75 thousandths of a second from Apostolos. Catalano still there in 3rd, but he's 0.4 of a second adrift, and he's not improving at the moment on that current lap that it's on. 4th place has become the BHK Motorsport car, which has got second driver Moron behind the wheel at the moment, but we've got this yellow flag sector because of Hecklinder's car on the session is going to be stopped. The red flags come out because that car is in a precarious position. So with 5 minutes and 53 seconds left on the clock, red flags out, session stops, and wait to see if they resume. They hopefully will, because there's more than 5 minutes left on the clock. But obviously nobody can go quicker on a lap when there's a yellow flag zone, and there's no point really carrying on the session unless you're going to freeze it and remove the car, and that won't take long because the crew are already here with the recovery digger to pick it up. You get a replay of how it happened. Not the first time somebody's been caught out by this chicane. You have to be pretty brutal with the car over the curbs, but that doesn't settle the car. They're so low slung that it's easily done. car lands, digs in, and just spears you off the circuit. So Hacklander out, and probably out of the session as well. And it's going to be 10th on the grid at best. And they're so low slung, these cars, that once they do go in the gravel trap, GT3 cars might be able to get out, but the prototypes tend to get buried. And a spectacular effort to get out, but going nowhere fast, I'm afraid. So really interesting battle developing for this pole position. Loverath with the 119.118 in the number 5 car, pipping Apotelos just by 75 thousandths of a second. So number 5, Loverath, with a 119.118, a 119.193 for Apotelos, and then Catalano with the 77 car, 119 as well, 119.550, but 4/10 of a second adrift. And then you've got Moron, who wasn't in the car yesterday in the 35 machine, who crept up to 4th place in the 120s at 120.423. Danny Sufi, the American driver, in car 2 with a 120.788. We saw quite a bit at the start of the session of the MRS GT Racing Ligier, driven by the Canadian Marco Kasic, and Kasic is 6th currently with a 120.850. The entertainer from yesterday, albeit a lap down, in 7th place, Martin Anderson in the 21 car has done a 121.2 and needs to find 3.5 of a second to get into the top 6. Konstantin Scholl is the Austrian driver in car 3, and 8th place. 9th place at the moment is the number 8 car, which was the one that caused the off yesterday, caused the safety car towards the end of the race. The Brazilian driver, Gabriel is behind the wheel of that one, 9th place, and the car that you're looking at the moment is 10th currently, number 22 car of Hacklander. The session is estimated to be resumed at 9:15, so that's confirmation we are going to get the session back underway, and that will be in just 3 minutes' time. So for the drivers and the teams, they head back into the pits while they wait for the track to be cleared. With the clock having stopped at 5 minutes and 53 seconds, however, at the best of times, it's 1 minute and 20 seconds to get around the lap here. So you wipe out 1 minute 20 seconds, but you've got to get out the pitch, you've got to do a lap, build up speed, and then go for it. So realistically, there's only going to be around about 3 minutes to actually try and set a lap time. So look, they might get three in, they might only squeeze 2 laps in, depending on how quick they get out of the pits. But the good news is that the car of Hacklander has been recovered and will be able to take part in the rest of the session potentially. So Max Hacklander's car, with the help of the recovery crew and the marshals, is out. Pretty experienced GT3 racer, 5 years in the GT Masters Championship, and he moved into this championship last year. It was the first season of the Prototype Cup Germany in 2022, and co-run by the ADAC and Creventic. It's great to see some top machinery and some really experienced drivers in the field competing. We mentioned Marcus Pommer, who back in 2014 was the German F3 champion. He's been a multiple race winner in GT Masters. He's raced in the ELMS, the European Le Mans Series, as well. So a couple of minutes to go, and they'll be released back out onto the circuit. You can't do anything with the cars and change the setups really. All you can do is try and get a bit of feedback from driver to engineer and vice versa, to say, right, where do you think we can find the time? Where can we go a little bit quicker? But they're going to want to be getting out the pits at the head of the queue if possible, to try and just squeeze in that 3rd lap. So be an out lap. They should all definitely get 2 flying laps, but it'll be tight as to whether they can squeeze a 3rd in, and that 3rd lap might be critical. So they're all into the pits, getting ready to go, keeping the doors up because it'll be pretty hot inside those cockpits with no airflow. It's only 16, 17 degrees outside, but you can add about 30 degrees to the ambient temperature if you're in the racing car, and when there's no airflow, it gets very hot very quickly. So not everybody, but lots of them opting to keep the doors open and get a bit of air in until the last moment. So we're less than 40 seconds away from the session being resumed now, with potential battle again between Lovras, Apotelos, and maybe Catalano. Catalano wasn't on a flying lap when the session came to a halt, but certainly got the ability to be able to get up there and charge after those top 2. Another German driver, German-Italian heritage, and single-seater racer until a couple of years ago in Formula 4, and moved into LMP3 last year. Done a bit of Asian Le Mans Series LMP3 racing as well. Finished 3rd or he's third in that championship at the moment. And there they get the signal to go back out onto the track then. And it's going to be one of the Conrad cars, the number 2 machine of Danny Sufi, that gets to the head of the queue and gets out first. And that could be critical because the clock already ticks down. As soon as that green light goes, rather than before they get to the end of the pit lane, that's when the clock starts ticking down. It's already, look, joining the circuit now. There's only 5.5 minutes to go. There's the aerial view of the big sweeping right-hander at turn 2. You can see there's not much grass left on the very inside of the section of grass that meets the corner, because that's where everybody runs wide and steers wide and takes to the grass. Lots of them doing it. Some of the drivers say you get sort of sucked into really attacking that corner because you know there's not a big gravel trap there. But it's quite bumpy on the way in. You have to clip the inside curb. You're coming out of that left-hand flick through turn 1, kind of almost immediately straight from the left into the right-hand braking zone. So the car is sort of really unsettled, as it is through this spectacular chicane sequence over the back of the circuit. You can't really see from that. There's a very slight downhill run into that. There we get the curb cam as well for some spectacular shots of these V8s rumbling past and roaring through. So Acklander has not gone back out and has remained in the pits. Explains what happened to the car, and 10th place at best. We'll be hoping that it can stay in the top 10. Nearest rival is Mark van der Schnell, who is in 11th and needs to find 0.6 of a second to get into the top 10. Gary Hauser only in 12th place at the moment. Remember, that's the team that haven't been off the podium yet. Gary Hauser and Marcus Pommer in the number 15 car. They are currently 12th. So Gary have a spin on cold tyres right at the start of the session. But they will be looking to be a bit higher up the order than that. Not much time to get a lap in. There's that destroyed advertising hoarding that we saw being wiped out by the MRS GT racing car of Marco Kasic as he was trying to avoid the spinning car of Wolfgang Peyer. And we see the great aerial shots of this wonderful challenging circuit here at Oschersleben, the most northern circuit in German motorsport, and a circuit which is still relatively new, built in the late 90s, or opened in the late 1990s. So kicking up the dust, pushing on, trying to build up the speed is the Ginetta of Danny Sufi. And Danny going pretty well at the moment in 5th place. It's a single driver, will get an extra 5-second pit stop penalty when they get to the pit stops, depending on the combination of the ability and ranking of the drivers, whether gold, silver or bronze. That combination, different combinations have different amounts of added on time above the minimum pit stop that they all have to achieve, but the single drivers get on top of that another 5 seconds as well. Super slow-mo then of just how you got to attack those curbs. It's pretty brutal through there. Underneath of the cars probably look a real state by the end of the weekend. The Conrad Motorsport car pushing on. Right, up to 6th place on the first flying lap has come Konstantin Scholl. So the Austrian, number 3, goes 6th quickest with a 1:20.812 second lap. And Gary Hauser's first flying lap, that's much better. Into 5th place now for the driver that is 2nd in the championship, the number 15 racing experience car. Somebody else wipes out advertising hoarding. About 5 or 6 of those have gone so far today, or is that just the one that was destroyed earlier? No, it looks like a fresh one, doesn't it? So I think they've got some spares. We'll keep an eye on the top times. Now, Apotelos has done a fastest first sector in the number 6 car, 29.144 seconds for the Swiss driver. He only needs to find 76 thousandths of a second. It's almost nothing to improve to get onto pole position. Here he is on the attack then in the number 6 car, pushing on right to the edge of the curbs he goes. Smooth, but you can tell the car is being pushed to its limits. It goes up the back straight now in towards the right-hander at turn 11 through the end of sector 2, and lost a bit of time through the second sector at 27.4. He's 0.2 down in the second sector, but had the absolute best first sector, so he needs a good final sector. And he might know that because you can see him pushing on there through turn 13 out of 14. He'll let the car drift out wide, get the power down early. It's not quite going to be enough. 1:19.179. He lost it later on in the lap. It's still the best lap, but now 61 thousandths of a second adrift. Lomras trying to respond, did a 1:19.3, which wasn't a bad lap. It still would have been good enough for 3rd place in itself, but the gap down Lovras remains on provisional pole. Gary Hauser has crept up to third place, meanwhile, with 2 consecutive good laps. So that's 4 cars now into the 1 minute 19s. Gary Hauser, number 15, up to third with a 1:19.448. And down to fourth place then is Catalano, still that 1:19.5. So a pretty good first set. It's not a personal best, but it keeps Catalano in the mix and does a personal best in sector 2. So the 77 car is trying to get back into the top 3. Not sure it's going to be good enough for the front row, but it could get back into the top 3 ahead of Gary Hauser. Continue to watch the battle between the Potolos and Lovras for provisional pole position. Potolos is on it again, but Lovras has done the absolute best first sector time. Catalano pulls something miraculous out of the bag in the final sector. He was down in the middle of the lap. Well, the last sector's mega, the best so far, to go provisional pole with a 1:19.088. Didn't think that was going to happen. I thought he'd get third. I didn't think he'd get first, but he has. 1:19.008 for the 77 cars. The checkered flag comes out. And Potolosi's last effort, not enough to improve, so he stays third. And same with Lovras, he doesn't improve his position or his lap time, so he stays in second place. And out of the bag with a mega end to the lap through that last sector is Catalano to get pole position. Valentino with a 1:19.088. Look at that, pushing on still is Catalano, because he just got through before the checkered flag came out. So he's still on a lap. He doesn't need to go any faster, because anybody that can threaten him, I think, is run out of steam and run out of time now. But Catalano, despite that, has done another absolute best first sector, another personal best in the second sector. He might just get in the 1:18s with this lap. If so, it's going to be a mega lap. So keep it on the track as much as you can. Get right to the edge of Adhesion through turn 14. He gets 2 wheels through the gravel trap. He's on a mission here to beat his own time and get in the 1:18s, and he does it. Fantastic. 1:18.888 seconds, and by 0.2 of a second, that is going to be pole position for round 4 of the Sports Prototype Cup Germany. What a great qualifying effort that was. He's got the fastest and the second fastest lap times of the session. Catalano, who was absolutely flying, as I say, in that second half of the race yesterday, was the only one that could keep up with the Potolos. And despite that, I mean, he definitely lost a little bit of time there. Could have been even quicker, but that was on the ragged edge. That was full and utter commitment and was a joy to watch. So well done for that effort. 1:18.8. Terrific lap then to get pole position for Valentino Catalano, the German-Italian driver. You can see the replays of the various wide moments and destroying of the advertising hoardings that we had across the course of that infield section. And yeah, everybody's sort of just dicing with the gravel traps at various sections. Even on the pole lap at the very last corner, you had that run wide and half a wheel over in the gravel trap. But that was a terrific effort. So the DKR engineering squad with Valentino Catalano, who will start the race, and Robin Rogalski, the Polish driver, who will share the honours with him. They were the drivers that will start the race this afternoon on pole position. 1:18.888 seconds. Lovras qualifying in second, Potolos in third place, and then Gary Hauser ended up fourth. Danny Sufi fifth. Martin Anderson should go well from sixth place. Konstantin Scholl seventh, and then in eighth place we had Moron. Kasic in 9th, Grillia in 10th, Hacklinder, despite not taking part in the last few minutes, dropped to 11th, with Van der Snel in 12th, Luton in 13th, Krohn and Peyer 14th and 15th at the end of qualifying for the Prototype Cup Germany. So thanks for watching. Hope you can join us again this afternoon for what promises to be a cracking race, round 4 of the Prototype Cup Germany. Thanks for watching. See you again later on today. Bye for now.